Yo, what's going on guys, Arekkz here and welcome back to another Destiny video. And in today's video I wanted to talk about 12 things that you are going to want to know in preparation for Rise of Iron. Now yesterday Gameinformer released their final article, their final video, where they spoke to the guys at Bungie, they spoke to Christopher Barrett and also Scott Taylor, and they asked a load of the community questions. And this time round there were some really good questions and some really good answers. Last year, if you guys remember when they did it for the Taken King, some of the questions had obviously been pre-vetted, so there wasn't really anything interesting that we learned, but this time round there was actually loads of cool stuff. So I decided to condense an hour's worth of Q&A down into a short video and talk about the 12 most important things you are going to want to know before the launch of Rise of Iron. So, if you do enjoy this, then a like would be super appreciated. Comment down below and let me know what you're most excited for, but let's get started. So, starting off with number 1, there is something really cool in the new social space in Failward to Peak that the guys at Bungie haven't yet talked about. And if you actually saw the podcast or the Q&A on Gameinformer's site, then Scott said that they are super excited about it. Scott actually spoke about how he ran into the office one time and was like, yeah, I've done it, kind of thing. So they obviously didn't say what it was, but there is a hidden secret, something in the social space that is super cool. Now, if I had to hazard a guess, I think it's probably tied to the bells that you need to ring, because they mentioned in passing before that it might have some sort of secret, and I'd be willing to bet that that is probably linked to what they're talking about. So obviously we don't know right now, but that is something to look out for on day 1 in the social space. Number 2, 3 of coins will still be around and will still be useful and will still be viable in Rise of Iron. So if you're after any of those new exotics, because of course, as you know, stockpiling exotic engrams won't really do you any good, because if it works anything like they have done in the past, then they're obviously not going to yield new exotic items. They may well yield new light level items, so you might still be able to use it to kind of gear up, but they most definitely won't yield new items. So 3 of coins is a surefire way to increase your chances of getting some new exotics, especially when you consider that the first thing you'll probably be doing when you play Rise of Iron is playing through the campaign. And throughout the campaign you will of course encounter bosses, encounter ultras, and they're of course where you can use your 3 of coins. So stock up beforehand, especially when Zur often doesn't have anything that you want. This is something you can buy. Moving on to number 3. This is actually a question that I asked Arekkz during Gamescom, and at the time they were still fine-tuning it, but we do now have a solid answer. Private matches can be used to work on Grimoire. So if you guys have any outstanding Grimoire and you're still trying to complete it right now, maybe there's some things that are frustrating you, hold tight, because if there's anything in the Crucible that you can do in private matches, then it'll be so much easier to do when Rise of Iron drops. However, it's worth noting that quests and weeklies cannot be done. So you can do dailies, you can do Grimoire, you can do field test weapons, but you cannot do quests, so no exotic quests in private matches, and also no weekly bounties. Moving over to number 4, Chroma will be able to be purchased from Eva Levanti in Rise of Iron. So if perhaps you're missing a few colours, or maybe you decided that you wanted to go from, say, pink to green, or green to pink, whatever you want to do, and maybe you've used up a lot of your Chroma, then you can definitely buy it from Eva Levanti, because Chroma will still be an active thing in Rise of Iron. Of course, ornaments are the new really exciting thing, but there will still be faction gear that will use Chroma, and some of the older weapons will still use Chroma, so it's still something you can buy, and if you do need it, Eva Levanti will be your source. Then in at number 5, faction packages will give you higher light gear. They didn't give us any kind of numeric values, so we don't know exactly where it will be dropping, but faction packages will be something you can use to genuinely up your gear, improve your power level, all that stuff, so it might well be worth, in preparation, edging some of your factions. Don't, of course, complete them because you can't hold on to those packages, but do think about maybe getting your XP so close to the point where you could hand in some bounties, complete them, and then, of course, move on from there. Number 6, the Gunsmith will also have new light level weapons. Again, we weren't given any values, but the Gunsmith will once again, in Rise of Iron, give you items that will be of use to you, so it won't just be like another vendor that goes into the pile of useless vendors where you think, alright, Taken King's gone, I don't need to speak to him anymore. The Gunsmith will once again be useful. He'll have new weapons, and they will of course be up to scratch, so if you are kind of progressing through the campaign, through the Rise of Iron story, you will be able to use those. Then, in at number 7, Zur will quite obviously sell new exotic gear in Rise of Iron, but also he will sell ornaments. Now, ornaments, if you don't get them from Zur, they come from Radiant Treasure, and the Radiant Treasure works in a similar way to Sterling Treasure, in that you open it and it can give you a random set of items, and ornaments are some of those items. But of course, as I'm sure you guys can imagine, getting ornaments from Radiant Treasure is entirely random. However, with Zur selling them, it means that if there is a particular one you're after, and he happens to have it that week, then you can just outright buy it. So let's say, for example, you wanted that fancy Gold and Black Hawk Moon with the cool Firefly effect. If he sells it, then you can buy it and have it guaranteed, as opposed to having to rely on it from Radiant Treasure, which I would imagine is something you can only get, a few of per week. So that's something to look forward to. It's also worth noting that ornaments will be purchased using silver dust and not strange coins, and silver dust comes from dismantling unwanted items from Radiant Treasure. So if you get, say, a duplicate ornament and you dismantle it, then of course you'll get silver dust in the process, and you can then use that to buy the ornaments from Zur. Plus you can also use silver dust to buy certain items from Tess Everest in Eververse. So for example, the Yellowwing Sparrow, not the iron one, but the regular Yellowwing Sparrow, is also purchased from Eververse using silver dust. Then coming in at number 8, there will be a new quest to acquire Thorn. Now, of course, if you guys have Year 1 Thorn, then I'm not entirely sure whether you will just be able to upgrade it or whether you too will have to go on the quest. But the point is, if any of you guys missed Thorn and perhaps you want to try it out in Year 3, whether you like it, whether you hate it, there will be a quest for it, which means much like Kvozdov and much like Yellowhorn, there will be a guaranteed path to getting this, so you won't have to rely on RNG, you won't have to rely on exotic bounties or anything like that. You can instead just go along the quest and you'll get Thorn. Quite whether that'll be available at the beginning, whether it's something that unlocks later on, all of this stuff we will have to find out, but there will be a quest to get Thorn. And of course, yes, Thorn is back in Year 3, whether you love it, whether you hate it. And of course, do bear in mind there's that fancy new artifact as well, so if Thorn is proven to be a problem in the Crucible, you can throw on that artifact to reduce damage over time effects. Then, in at number 9, there will be a weapon balancing update post Rise of Iron. So it won't come when Rise of Iron drops, but at some point after Rise of Iron has launched, they will again do another big weapon balancing pass. So for those of you guys hoping for, a shift in the meta and whatnot, then that may well be your time. Next up at number 10, there will of course be new strike-specific legendary items. Now, they're not going to preview any of those before launch, so of course we won't get to see them. But much like how some of the new strikes and some of the existing strikes have strike-specific rewards, that will in turn also apply to the new strikes. And of course the cool thing about that is that Rise of Iron is also introducing the special chests at the end of strikes, where you can use skeleton keys to open them to get a guaranteed strike-specific reward. Of course it will still be random if, say, that strike drops 2 or 3 different rewards, so of course you might not necessarily have the item you want, but at least there is a guaranteed path to getting that. So if any of you guys are still chasing specific strike rewards, then it might just be worth holding out, because when Rise of Iron comes out, those chests will of course be on the new strikes, and I believe they're also being retroactively added to the existing strikes too. So let's say, for example, you're still after Tanix's Cloak, one of my favourite items, then if you wait till Rise of Iron, grab yourself a skeleton key, run through that strike, open a chest at the end, you're going to have a much better chance at getting that item. Save wasting your time now doing the strike hundreds of times back to back. So yeah, that's going to be really useful, really helpful, and of course again great for people that like to customize and personalize their character. Then moving on to the last two now, number 11, there will be a special event of sorts the week before Rise of Iron comes out. Now there are no details whatsoever with regards to this, but there will be something happening the week before Rise of Iron launches, and Christopher Barrett and Scott Taylor both said they're actually pretty excited about it. Now, if you cast your mind back to previous expansions, say for example, way back before the Dark Below came out, those knights with the swords started showing up in patrol missions. Then of course before House of Wolves, there were some of those chests that showed up. Before Taken King, you had the Taken Blights. Basically, they like to do this just before an update comes out. There's typically some sort of event that happens in patrol, be that an enemy or something that occurs that you can interact with, you can start earning items from, reputation towards, or just something to kind of like foreshadow what's coming. Either way, it's normally pretty exciting, it's normally something fun to get involved in, and there will be the same sort of thing happening for Rise of Iron. So once we do get some more details, I will of course let you guys know, or it may well be that we don't get details at all. It might literally just be like they've done in the past, where an update goes live and then someone happens to be randomly in patrol doing some bounties and they're like, hold on a minute, what is that? And there's like a new enemy or a new thing happening, and then suddenly, it blows up on Reddit and everyone's like, whoa, this is exciting. So however it's delivered, I will of course keep you guys up to date, but know that the week before Rise of Iron comes out, I would imagine from like the Tuesday onwards, you're probably going to want to start keeping your eyes peeled for something pretty special. Then finally in at number 12, and this is a super important one to help you guys get prepared, the release of Rise of Iron in terms of when it will actually go live, and it will be playable on September the 20th at 2 AM Pacific time, which if you're in the UK is 10 AM, which is great for me. It means I don't have to play during the night. I apologise to those of you guys in the States that are going to have to be up through the night, but 10 AM UK time, 2 AM Pacific time is when Rise of Iron will go live. The download will be available before that, so you will be able to pre-download it, prepare and get ready, so that way when the servers go live you can literally just jump in and start playing straight away. But mark those times in your calendar, 2 AM Pacific, 10 AM UK time. That is when it all kicks off on September the 20th. And that's it. those are my 12 things that you probably wanted to know before Rise of Iron comes out. With some of those things in mind, it of course means it will help you prepare for Rise of Iron. Things like stocking up on strange coins, edging your factions, all that stuff like that. Things you're kind of used to by now anyway, but regardless, that's what you need to know. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you do want to see the whole Gameinformer Q&A, it's about 50 minutes long, then I will leave a link to it in the description box down below. But for the time being, thank you for watching, take it easy, catch you next time, peace out.